Hello, and welcome to episode 101 of Sensational She-Geek, live from Yancey Street. And while we're at it, happy August 1st, aka Lunasa, if you celebrate either of those. It is the midpoint between the beginning of the beginning of summer and fall. In a little bit of a different turn of events, I would like to start this episode by pimping out the Discord that my husband Adam and I are running. There's only a couple of people in it. Adam will be joining us later in the episode, in case you were wondering. There's only a couple of people who are in the Discord with us right now, but we would love to grow that just to have, friends, adult friends. It's hard to make friends as an adult. Let's be real. That's what we're doing this for. This Discord. And you can talk about stuff that I talk about on the podcast or not, and completely ignore the fact that I do the podcast. I really don't care. We're just looking for like-minded people to join us in the Discord and have some fun. Okay. And you can find that linked in the description, where I'm also going to have links to our social media, mine and Adam's. We use Instagram more or less primarily for what little we're even on it. But then there's also whatever other links to things, and my website and my blog, and the podcast notes are just like a loose, sometimes loose, sometimes more intensive outline for what I'm doing for the podcast weekly, which I make available to everybody if they want to see that for whatever reason, following along, or for being hearing impaired, or anything really, whatever. I don't care what you do with it. It's just me babbling, just like the podcast. So anyway, I think that covers all of the introduction stuff. Also, my name is Anna, in case you guys didn't know that. I get all these emails sometimes from different podcasting hosts, providers, I guess. And they always say, "Hello, Sensational She-Geek." Okay, well, you obviously didn't listen to the podcast because I have a name. But whatever, it's fine. And I'm hoping that the audio is a little bit better this week. I've kind of been messing around with the cord on my microphone. In the market for a new one. If you have any suggestions of things that aren't astronomically expensive, I would love to hear them. So hopefully it sounds a little bit better. I just made a video about my Disney Dreamlight Valley setup, which is mostly unfiltered, so that's why I have it marked 18 and up, because I'm testing to see if Disney will let me do that. So anyway, it's up on my YouTube page where I put my action figure review videos and stuff, which, let me grab her right now. I don't know why I grabbed her, it's not like you can see her, but it's here. For some reason it's a Spider-Man, it's a Marvel Legends, which I know I shit on Marvel Legends all the time, and Hasbro, which is still deserved. But this is a Daredevil Elektra action figure that I'm going to be unboxing on my YouTube channel tomorrow, probably, because I haven't found the issues. It's got the picture on the front, and I have that issue that the picture on the front is from the Marco Schettino art, but I can't find the issue in our long boxes and short. We have a selection of long boxes and short boxes to store our comics. We really need just a room to put shelving in. So it's you get real sweaty looking through them. So I'll do that tomorrow when I don't have work later in the day, like today. And I can get all sweaty and not worry about stinking at work. So anyway, look out for that on my YouTube channel, and also watch the Dreamlight Valley video if you're into me running around saying dumb shit, which is really just what this podcast is, I guess. So moving along, the actual things that we'll be talking about on this podcast are pretty much standard. We're going to talk Tarot Card of the Week, which this week is number 14, Temperance, which is a very queer card, and I'm super happy about that. And so we'll talk all about the history and the pop culture references, Marvel Tarot, Anime Tarot, all of that fun stuff. Really excited for that. We have a limited manga section. Instead of Manga of the Week, I'm going to talk about two things that I've read recently that are manga related, and that's My Dress Up Darling Volume 9, which came out mid to late July in English, and then Superman VS Meshi number 2, which is the one of the 3 DC, Japanese DC publications that are getting published in English now. In the comic books, we have not really any comic book news. Later on in the podcast, I'll talk about things that I'm looking forward to this month of August, because there's a lot of really fun stuff getting kicked off and events and whatnot happening. So we'll go over that kind of briefly. But I have catch up on all of the recent reads for the past week or so. It includes Ultimate Invasion #2, the end of Hellcat, the start of Pure Evil. I'm pretty sure the finale of She-Hulk before they kick off Sensational in October. A couple other things, and then, of course, the 2 issues that come from the fall for X-Men and Marvel. That's the Hellfire Gala and Iron Man #3. I'm sure there was more than that, but those are the 2 that I read. And then all of the Night Terrors stuff, which includes the one-shots, or it's the first issues of the 2 shots for various characters, and then the Night Terrors #2, which was the, official thing. Official series for the event. We'll talk briefly about stuff that is coming out new this week. That is today, the 1st of August for DC Comics, and tomorrow the 2nd for everything else, because DC's just got to be different like that. And that's going to include what's coming for Marvel's The Fall and DC's Night Terrors as well. And then that'll bring us into the movies, TV, and anime segment. Obviously starting like usual with a new and noteworthy, including things that we're watching for the spring anime season. We've got a couple of movies, and it's going to be 2 very opposite ones I'll talk about briefly. The Little Mermaid live action and Knock at the Cabin, which are completely opposite ends of the spectrum, but I had a lot of fun watching both of them for extremely different reasons. And then we'll have just very briefly news and announcements before we get into current shows, where Adam will join us, and he'll talk with us about Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 8, Under the Cloak of War, the Secret Invasion finale episodes, and then the kickoff of Harley Quinn animated series Season 4, Episodes 1 through 3, titles of which include Gotham's Hottest Hotties, BITCH, and Icons Only. How can you not absolutely love this show? That's one of my friendship tests. We probably won't get along if you don't like this show. You can still check out the Discord, because I'm sure there's other stuff that we agree on. Just don't talk about the fact you don't like that show. Because it says, to me, it says a lot about a person. But whatever. Let's get started. As I said, we are starting off with our tarot lessons. The card of the week from the Major Arcana is card number 14, titled Temperance. We're going to go over the history first, which isn't too big. My usual resource of tarot-heritage.com doesn't have a page on the card Temperance, so I went and found some other resources to put together some loose history. There's a bit more in description and symbolism, and then interpretation and meaning, which will compare a more modern take to the 1910 A.E. Waite take, which is always a little bit funny and dramatic. I am 14 and this is deep of him. Then pop culture, we'll talk Marvel Tarot, Anime Tarot, and JoJo. And then we'll give a little summary, and that'll be the end of the tarot for this week. I don't have a deck of the month because I've had to, really focus in on things that are kind of more reasonable in my brain to be able to keep up with. And then on weeks that I feel like I can do a little bit more, maybe I'll add some deck of the week again, or deck of the month again. But for right now, I'm just going to do what I feel like is feasible for me in my various, whatever my current state might be. So starting with history, temperance is almost invariably depicted as a person pouring liquid from one receptacle into another, usually a cup. Historically, this was a standard symbol of the virtue temperance, one of the cardinal virtues representing the dilution of wine with water. A woman mixing water into wine was a standard allegory of temperance in European iconography. As for the identity of the figure, temperance is almost invariably, they use that word a lot, depicts a figure with pouring liquid from one cup to another. This figure is usually referred to as the virtue temperance or as an angel, though several other interpretations also exist. In particular, British occult and witchcraft author Paul Hewson suggests that the figure once represented Ganymede, who served as a cupbearer to Zeus. It is also possible that the figure could be the goddess Iris or the archangel Gabriel. For Gabriel, they say that it's him because of the Hebrew sun symbol on his forehead. To them, the triangle shown in the square on the chest of the figure apparently tells of the Holy Trinity in perfect balance. They say Archangel Gabriel is the archangel of the sun and tells that one can achieve mental balance. Then that the sun leads to wisdom, understanding, and achievement. And then finally, spiritual karma, supposedly depicted in the wings of the figure, indicates his unconditional love. I don't really see that one. I like the Iris take on it. Iris, in Greek mythology, is a daughter of the gods Thaumas and Electra, a servant to the Olympians, and especially Queen Hera, a messenger of the gods, and a personification of the rainbow. The Iris interpretation is supported by the rainbow, which is often added above her head, and the fact that the flowers pictured in the Rider-Waite tarot version of the card are irises. As for description and symbolism on the card, the figure wears a light blue robe with a triangle enclosed in a square on the front, representing that humans, a triangle, are bound by the earth and natural law, the square. The triangle in the square is septenary, yes, the symbol for the number 7 sides. In the Rider-Waite image by Pamela Coleman Smith, the Hebrew tetragrammaton is on the angel's chest above the square and triangle. It is in the derivative tarot decks. This is usually not included. If you're wondering what that is, the 4-letter Hebrew theonym, translated as YHWH or YHVH, is the name of God in the Hebrew Bible. While there is no consensus about the structure and etymology of the name, the form Yahweh is now accepted almost universally, though the vocalization Jehovah continues to have a wide usage, which also explains the name of Jehovah's Witness. The angel balances between 1 foot, or supposed angel, I guess, balances between 1 foot on the rocks, expressing the need to stay grounded, and 1 foot in the water, showing the need to be in the flow, and encouraging us to let life force flow freely. In many decks, the person is androgynous, walking that somewhat middle path in the gender binary, as with the land and water. They pour water between 2 cups, symbolic of the flow and alchemy of life, the combination of elements, which again can often be linked to the figure's queerness. Blending of the different elements into a harmonious substance represents a bridge between polarities like heaven and earth, masculine and feminine, beginning and end. The water depicted on the card indicates emotions and the connection to the subconscious seen by the foot in the water. Water is the essence of life. The winding road leading to a mountain range on the distant horizon depicts one's life journey. It tells of a difficult road to follow, but one must be aware that it leads to a place of peace and balance. Above the mountains hovers a golden crown, encased in a glowing light, a symbol of taking the higher path and staying true to one's life purpose and meaning. Moving on to the interpretation and meaning of the card itself. According to good old A.E. Waite's 1910 book, The Pictorial Key to the Tarot, Temperance card is associated with, he says, economy, moderation, frugality, management, accommodation. In the reverse, he says it means things connected with churches, religions, sects, the priesthood, sometimes even the priest who will marry querent, whatever that means. Also, disunion, unfortunate combinations, and competing interests. A lot of that doesn't make any sense based on the descriptions that we've talked about, but he was quite a dude, A.E. Waite. Not always in good ways. From Biddy Tarot, which is by Bridget Esselmont, she writes the upright meaning as balance, moderation, patience, and purpose, and reversed as imbalance, excess, self-healing, and realignment. To expand on that just a touch, she says, Temperance is the card for bringing balance, patience, and moderation into your life. You are being invited to stabilize your energy and to allow the life force to flow through you without force or resistance. It's time to recover your flow and get your life back into order and balance. This card calls on you to remain calm even when life feels stressful or frantic. Maintain an even temperament and manage your emotions. Temperance asks you to take the middle path and accommodate all perspectives. Now is not the time to be highly opinionated or controversial. Be the peacekeeper and take the balanced and moderate approach, avoiding any extremes. Include others and bringing together diverse groups of people to create harmony and cooperation. By working together, you will collectively leverage the right mix of talents, experiences, and abilities and skills. This tarot card is about blending, mixing, and combining diverse elements in a way that creates something new and even more valuable than its separate parts. Blending can take on many forms. For example, a blended family, an artist who blends different materials or techniques, a bartender who mixes new and exciting cocktails, or a chef who combines different cuisines and cooking styles. Finally, this card reflects higher learning. Your inner voice is guiding you to the right outcome, and you are patiently listening and following. And that brings us to pop culture references. We're going to do Marvel Tarot, Anime Tarot, and then JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. We'll start with JoJo, why not? In JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Stardust Crusaders, characters' powers, also known as stands, are named after tarot cards. The Temperance power, or stand, belongs to Rubber Soul, who is a minor antagonist. So for the Marvel Tarot, this was published in 2007 as a journal, like a fictional journal, of this character in the Marvel Universe who is going through and reading the tarot cards, and it's got like notes about various esoteric things in the Marvel Universe, the 616. A really cool, honestly, page that shows the different, like, purple dimension, dark dimension, all those things kind of in a line, how they kind of line up. It's very cool. It's that particular page is very reminiscent of Grant Morrison's Multiversity, but anyway. So the character is going through in this journal and assigning characters of the 616 to the various tarot cards. So this one he assigns to Topaz. Let's see what he says here. I gotta zoom in because I don't have my glasses on. Topaz, the perfect person to personify Temperance, the card of healing, because she is more than an empath, more than a healer, more than a sorceress. She is kind. She truly cares about others. She saved my life once when I thought I wanted to die. I tried to stop her, to convince her that I would be better off, that everyone would be better off, if she would just let me go. She rolled her eyes and told me to shut the hell up. I laughed so hard that I knew I wasn't ready to let go of anything. I shut the hell up and let her heal me. I have no regrets. I just hope I can pay her back someday, somehow. He's got her on the card, obviously, in his journal, but it's really funny because it's on this background of, like, stained glass windows from churches. It really doesn't make any sense. I would love to see this kind of fictional journal redone for a more modern audience. And reasonabilities and sensibilities and everything. So for the Anime Tarot, this is Tasha Iglesias' Anime Tarot, exploring the archetypes, symbolism, and magic in anime. For the Temperance card, we have the character of the Pacifists. Let's pull that out here and see what it says. 13, 14. The Pacifist. Temperance's analog in anime is the Pacifist. These characters prioritize diplomacy, peace, moderation, and compassion when others' emotions get the best of them. They put aside grudges in order to problem solve creatively. I don't know why I said that weird. Maintain order and keep the peace. If they must fight, it's usually to defend that peace or to protect those in need. And even then, pacifists do so as the last resort, with heavy hearts and in surprising, innovative ways. Characters it says, yeah, she has a list. The pacifist appears in Bleach, Orihime Inui, and Oscar Joaquin de la Rosa. In Trigun, it's Vast Stampede, of course. In Howl's Moving Castle, it is Howl Jenkins Pendragon, also, of course. In One Piece, King Riku Doldo III. Rururi Kenshin, it is Himura Kenshin. In Code Geass, is it Geass? I think it is. Euphemia Libritannia. What a shitty name, I'm sorry. In Hunter x Hunter, it is Prince Halkenberg Huiguoro, which I'm definitely said wrong. Huigoro. Slightly better. And in Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, it is Relena Darlin. So there you are with the pop culture references. To summarize the pacifist card. Sorry, to summarize the Temperance card. Are you a person who has mastered the art of finding balance at all times? For most of us, the answer is no. It is part of the human experience to look for harmony and equilibrium. Finding it can bring great joy and relief. You are capable of finding harmony and enjoying well-being, even when faced with challenges. The things you will need are threefold: persistence, patience, and a clear vision of what you truly desire. Just a couple of points in the manga segment. I have a news point, which is that horror manga creator, Junji Ito received Comic-Con International's Inkpot Award. This is pretty much the primary, or if not only, mangaka-based award that they give out at Comic-Con during around the same time as the Eisners, mangaka being a manga creator. So that's really fun. Check out his show that's on Netflix right now. If it's Tales of the Macabre, if you want to see more about his stories. For Manga of the Week, we don't really have one, as I said, but I will talk about My Dress Up Darling Volume 9 and Superman vs. Meshi vs. 2. My Dress Up Darling Volume 9 was really good because it introduced a number of new characters who we hadn't seen at all before, some of which we had talked about, but now we get to see them and hang out with them, and it adds another layer of, let's say, drama to the relationship between the two main characters, as they are becoming slightly jealous of these other characters who are coming in. So that's very fun. I was a little bit put off by the need to lose weight part of it that starts at the beginning, which I suppose makes sense if in a cosplay context. A person is always growing, especially in high school like they are. So gaining weight in high school is not because you have gotten fat necessarily, it's because you are still growing as a person. But then, of course, the whole thing about, like, oh yeah, cosplays won't fit anymore. Okay, fine, that kind of solves it, but it was still really surprising to find there. Superman vs. Meshi vs. 2, very simple. Superman goes to a burger joint that he's been looking forward to this burger all day, but they're sold out. So he goes to Japan for a beef bowl and has this whole thing about he's trying to figure out which kanji is beef and which is pork, and he orders the wrong one. He gets pork instead, and is about to get really upset, but then he gets overwhelmed by the sensation and the smells and everything, and decides that he likes it more than the beef bowl would have anyway. So, super cute. Looking forward to more. So let's talk comic books. We're going to go over first the things that were recent releases that I've read. We're going to start with Ultimate Invasion #2. So a couple of things that we know the maker has confirmed being different, which are some of them are pretty wild. So we start with Loki is the king of Asgard, and the Bifrost is broken. The Fantastic Four never hit the cosmic storm due to a flight delay and are just regular people. Stain and Stark Industries combine, but it's Howard Stark, not Tony Stark. Howard never dies. Possibly Tony may not even have been born. Mortal Hulk is a holy man, and magic leads the Rasputin family. You have a white page of 616 heroes who are either inactive, deceased, captive, or otherwise controlled. So he's clearly, on his shit about this. The maker is, he's in Latveria in this, bubble thing this bubble city thing he created, and there's this big political hubbub about it's going to open, and he's going to come out, and the world's going to meet him or whatever it is. And so that's where you have the immortal Hulk there with his holy man and people, and the Rasputin family there, and a couple of others. And I think they also say that everybody except for Reed Richards out of the Fantastic Four, what would have been the Fantastic Four, have actually died now, if I'm not mistaken. But it's kind of interesting because the maker comes out of his little sealed city thing and just looks up at the sky and says, "I'm waiting," and all of these heroes come out and attack him. And at first they're like, "Oh, it's it's all the heroes who were inactive or deceased or whatever from this world coming from other universes." But after the maker wins, you discover that it's actually not what happens. He just captures them all and puts them in his little prison, and kind of reveals that they are actually from the future, from various futures, come as suicide bombers, basically to try and stop him from stopping all of these heroes from having legacies. So the maker uses this genetic marker thing that he has to find their ancestors that are in this time currently, and then kills all of them. So all of the heroes get wiped out of existence at a cellular level, which is wild, and very much something along the lines of what the maker would do. And then he speaks with Howard Stark and says, "Listen, I've had this whole accident." He shows him this big hole in his head. Doesn't matter because his brain and everything else is elsewhere, because that's also another very maker thing of him to do. And he shows Howard this time machine and explains, I got this memory issue because somebody attacked me, but here I think you, Howard Stark, built me this time machine so that I could do all this stuff, but keeping the heroes in stasis or whatever it is that he's done with them. So now they have to reverse engineer it or something like that. But anyway, there's also going to be, I think, Ultimate in, there's another Ultimate something or other that's happening. What is it? It's coming out this coming week. It is, maybe it's not. There's something later this month then that's coming out that's Ultimate related. But anyway, next up we got Hellcat number 5 was the finale. I was a little bit bummed by this, to be honest, because I really, really hate it when you get these female-led series. Like, Captain Marvel kind of just did it, but it wrote it all off as, I'm afraid to turn into Scarlet Witch, which was just felt so out of the blue. They just kind of end. They have not quite a really big, moment of a, like, internal speech, and then it ends. And it's like, it doesn't quite reach the high point that you expect it to for this big final speech that they're making. And that's pretty much how Hellcat went. It basically ends with, she's a hero or she's a villain, so whatever. Because they go back into the whole thing about how her mom had made that deal back in the Defenders' day. Well, when she was a child, her mom made the deal that if when she dies, a demon can take Patsy's soul or body or something, and so that she'd live. And obviously, when she dies, that kind of comes to fruition. Patsy's temporarily a demon. What this is building off of, this story builds off of that, and says, well, she's still got that demon part in her, and it has to go back to hell another time or two, and it kind of makes sense, I guess. You know, that the demon has been there for so long or parts of the demon have been there for so long that it's a part of her now, and I don't really know if you could say that that's her true self, because it was never, I don't know, but, it kind of, like, I guess in a way explains why she and Damon were so attached so quickly, because if you look through their relationship chronologically, it is a textbook case of, just real bad shit happening, but anyway. So the finale just kind of ended. This is like, so she knocked the demon side out of her, actively at least. It's not actively there, and so now she's like, I'm traumatized now, but I'll get better, but I might be good or I might be evil, and that's kind of how it ends. Like, well, that's not really saying much, but okay. Per Evil number 1 by Mirka Andolfo, and it was good. Obviously something really ridiculous and fun, and I'm here for that. She-Hulk number 15 was the finale of this arc, basically, and then it's going to go with the same creative team onto Sensational She-Hulk, which I am a little bit mad about, because John Byrne wasn't actually all that great, let's be honest. He was an incredibly creepy dude and wrote some real awful stories. But anyway, this was fine. The art was good. I'm looking forward to more She-Hulk, I guess, even if it is disappointingly light. There's not much substance to any of it for even a moment, but that's fine. At least we're getting She-Hulk, right? I try to justify it that way. Avengers number 3, Iron Man's suit is blue, and there is some kind of what they're calling a combine of oddly named evildoers. Now, what I think is happening here is that, who were they? The Black, Thanos' Black Order, right? All those, in the movies, they called them the Children of Thanos, right? They're not literally the Children of Thanos. People took it that way, though. And they have all their cool names. And I feel like during the Infinity event, or Inhumanity, or whatever it was that they were center stage, all these writers saw their really funky, cool names. You know, we've got, Cole Obsidian. We've got Corvus Glaive. Hela was one, but that doesn't really count right now. Black Dwarf, Black Swan, Proxima Midnight, Ebony Maw. You know, the various less than that creators went through and saw that, and I feel like Jed MacKay, you know, you've done good stuff for Black Cat and some other things. And your Clea stuff has been disappointing, to be honest. But, you know, the names he came up with are they sound a little dumb. It's trying to be like Obsidian Maw and stuff like that. It's not quite that cool. And so now they're cool. Daredevil and Echo number 3. Matt ends up the sacrifice. I really am lost in the story at this point, I'm not gonna lie. And then Silk number 3, Cindy has found out that she's dreaming and that it resets every time she voices that thought, so at this point she's just playing all along. Her brother in the real world goes to Wong for help, which is nice to see. Cindy is fighting a dream monster, apparently, called a Jali. Fight it in the dream, and you give it energy. As a spider totem, Cindy can uniquely keep powering it up until it joins the corporeal world. Albert, her brother, needs to go to Cindy's dream world to give her a magic crystal. The tech lady kind of tries to stop this, it doesn't work, and she saves the creature, sort of, by 90%-ish becoming it in the real world there. So that's probably not what she meant to do. It looks real bad. It looks like it's painful. So going into Marvel's The Fall, we had Iron Man number 8 and the Hellfire Gala, which the main thing I have written here is ugh in my notes. Overcomplicated. Now this is different. It's overcomplicated in the way that Jonathan Hickman does things, in which the way that he plays out the story is the pieces being put together. This is overcomplicated by the way of just too many moving pieces. You have things out of left field. You've got Moira suddenly here. You've got now everybody's an Orcus villain, and even Firestar's an Orcus villain. Not really, though. Like, it's just, oh god. The first Hellfire Gala, Hickman put out some really fun stuff, and the second one last year was like so incredibly disappointing because it ended up just being all about Moira and for some reason Mary Jane and Peter Parker, which was not something I think anybody wanted to be reading about in the Hellfire Gala at all. And then this year was just like, I'm sorry, for lack of a better word, it's a clusterfuck. And it ends with all of the X-Men, all of the mutants who were on Krakoa, except for maybe 10, being slaughtered. We've seen this story before. I'm so tired of it. This is literally why Hickman gave us the Hickman era of Krakoa and X of Sword, all of that stuff, like, to stop killing, like, this is, do you not have another play? Is this the only play you guys have? Is kill all the mutants and make them start over. Like, come on, this has been like the third time this has happened. I'm sick of it. It is not fun. It is not interesting. It's not original. It's not even traumatic. We know they're gonna come back. It doesn't matter. It's just stuff happening. Why does anybody care? They're gonna come back next week, just like Kamala came back as, and they're like, oh, and for some reason, then Scott, which on this side it makes sense, and Emma, which on her side it makes absolutely no sense, want to use Kamala, a child, to make the mutants look good. They're like, oh yeah, tell everybody that you're a mutant and an Inhuman, because then they'll see that the mutants are good. I'm sorry, Emma would never do that. Scott would, because he's always been a piece of shit. But Emma, like, was traumatized post her original Hellions team. Like, she does not hurt children anymore. So it's just like, I don't know. I just really didn't like anything really about the Hellfire Gala except for the mostly good art. And then there's like the new issue, the new cover of the Ms. Marvel, the Mutant or whatever, the new X-Men Ms. Marvel, whatever it is. Like it looks so bad. I feel like they've done her such a disjustice with that outfit. But anyway, Iron Man number 8 was the, like, the other side of stuff, because you get some people who escape Krakoa, and some who were drawn off to do this fake fight for Captain America, and this is, like, that side of it. You see that side of things. So, this guy who was in the stuff earlier for the X-Men, he's pink, I think? His skin is pink. He hates the X-Men for whatever reason. He somehow won the rights to Iron Man and is using Sentinel Iron Mans to patrol for mutants. That's how Orcus got them to attack Krakoa. It's exhausting. Diamond Form Emma superhero landing was really cool. There is clearly no love between the two of them. She's furious at him for most of the issue. He is not really happy with her for most of the issue either. But they clearly still care for each other as allies. Therefore, I'm only left to believe that this wedding is going to be a complete farce for whatever reason, plot-based. But anyway, Tony is smashed almost to death by Sentinels, and Emma literally has to go inside his mind to save him. And then she gets slapped with an inhibitor collar, which was lame, but Tony uses the rescue protocol, which is like, what's her name? Ginger? No, Pepper. Ginger. Pepper had the rescue suit, so he uses the rescue protocol, which goes to the female there, which was Emma in this case, and saves her that way. So she's still got the inhibitor collar on, which I still am mad about, because they just can't not depower female characters. It's a whole thing. And then that leaves us with DC's Night Terrors. We'll go through these issues very loosely, because a lot of them, like Angel Breaker, I don't even know who that is. That's literally all I have written here is, I don't know who this is, I don't know what this is. But Night Terrors, the issue in the main series, number 2, it tells a story about how the Nightmare Stone is created, and then basically you wind up with the Night Terror creatures who are there, which I don't quite understand what they are. They kill Red Tornado, which is a robot, so I'm sure he'll be fine. Night Terror's Action Comics number 1 was Paige Starr versus her new bestie Omen, who I still am convinced is a villain anyway. And then it had the second story about the other supers, which I would love somebody to explain who the heck they are. Obviously I know Connor Kent. But why are all these Kryptonians living together and so all of a sudden? I miss that, clearly. Detective Comics Night Terrors number 1 was Gordon's story. Night Terrors Harley Quinn, I have nothing to say about. That was positive. And then Night Terrors Titans number 1 was the Titan Towers nightmare itself. So that was kind of an odd take, but it's fun, I guess. So that brings us into what is new coming out in comics this week. This is just my pull list. There's a lot more than this. These are just things that I find that I will be probably looking forward to reading. Check out your local comic book shop and, the internet for what else is coming out each week. I also have, if you need some resources or if you have questions about how to track what comics are coming out when, yada yada yada, please reach out. I have taught myself all of these things in the past decade, so I would love to tell you all what I do to keep this stuff straight in my head. Because it's a lot. It can be a lot. So new this week, which is August 1st, hello, and August 2nd, tomorrow. Starting with The Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 1, not written by Zeb Wells, thank the Lord, written by Erica Schultz, who is doing the Hallows' Eve series right now, which is stupendously popular, I think nobody saw coming, and I'm very happy for that. It says, Hallows' Eve will attempt her biggest scheme yet, breaking Chasm out of jail. Currently imprisoned in Madeline Pryor's new demonic Limo embassy, Spider-Man's misguided clone is more vengeful than ever, and Hallows' Eve is the only one who dares to let him loose. Does she have the skills and nerve to go head-to-head against the Goblin Queen, and how long will the dark tidings from this year's Hellfire Gala impact her bold rescue attempt? I don't care about that part very much. I care about Madeline Pryor. Also, why was she not at the Hellfire Gala? She should have been invited if Wilson Fisk was invited, and all those other assholes, but okay. I would like to see somebody design her a Hellfire Gala outfit. I feel like it would just be made of flames attached by, like, nip covers and stuff. Anyway, Strange Academy, Miles Morales, number 1 of 3, is by Carlos Hernandez, who I think might be the one who wrote that really awful What If I'm not mistaken. But this is going to be 3 issues of, Miles and Strange Academy. Conan the Barbarian is coming from Titan Books by Jim Zub, continuing from their free comic book day special, and has a really cool art germ variant that I recommend checking out. Death of the Venomverse number 1 has a funly release variant of Silence, who is a character I love. Fire and Ice number 1 comes from Dynamite, and then The Sacrificers number 1 from Image Comics by Rick Remender with a sick Jenny Frison, unfortunately incentive variant, so it's going to be expensive. Star Wars Dark Droids number 1 sounds like a cool party I want to be a part of, and it's written by Charles Soule, who is a proven excellent Star Wars writer. Then we have Justice Society of America number 5, Doctor Strange number 6, which is not really anything about Clea in the description or in any of the covers, so we'll see if I care about that one. Adventures of Superman John Kent number 6 continues the Injustice World arc they're doing, and then Grimm number 12, which has been an excellent series. That is, I believe, Image. Or Boom. Whatever. And then we have, from Marvel, the X-Men The Fall. It's going to kick off Magneto number 1, Astonishing Iceman number 1 by Steve Orlando, because I feel like anytime they have a queer man in anything, they give it to Steve Orlando. Like, this is the only one in existence. And then X-Men number 25, I'm actually looking forward to. I haven't been keeping up with the main X-Men line, but this one I will read because it says, she's been known as Kitty, Sprite, Ariel, Red Queen, and Captain Kate. Now, as a new X-Men team finds their way through their darkest hours, Shadowcat emerges. Oh yeah, that was another thing that happened in the Hellfire Gala. They named the new X-Men team, who were then immediately slaughtered. It was like, are you trying to make them look bad? But okay. It's a really cool Peach Momoko design variant. I really like this costume design. I'm very, very pleased with it, which is not a common thing to hear. I feel like comic readers say period these days. And then DC's Night Terrors, we have issues 2 of 2 for Batman, Black Adam, Poison Ivy, Ravager, and the Joker. So I'll be summarizing all of those on the next podcast episode. The last thing I want to talk about is things that I'm looking forward to this month in August. Since we already went over the week of August 1st and 2nd, let's talk the rest of the month. Next week, for the 8th and 9th, we're going to get, Children of the Vault, number 1, Comic Books Kill, number 1, a new set of Night Terrors, number 2 issues, as well as Night Terrors, number 3, Met Cadets, number 1, and the Superman 2023 annual. The week of August 16th, we're getting Alpha Flight number 1, The Cole number 1, Dark X-Men number 1 with my girl Madeline Pryor. I'm super stoked for that. I really liked the Disney Villains Maleficent series, so I'm going to keep up with that and start the Hades one that week as well. We have a Doctor Who 2023 special, Invincible Iron Man annual, a pen and ink republication of The Many Deaths of Layla Starr, which was a stupendous read. Marvel's Voices, X-Men number 1, and then Uncanny Avengers number 1. And then for the week of the 23rd, we've got Captain America Finale as a first issue, Fantastic Four annual, Immortal Thor number 1, that's an Al Ewing series. And then Jean Grey number 1, some more Night Terrors, including Night Terrors number 4. And the Penguin number 1, Realm of X number 1, and the Schlub number 1. Finally, for the last week of August, for things that we're looking forward to, we've got Catwoman Uncovered, which is just the issue full of cool covers I've done for the Catwoman books in the past and in the recent past. The Devil's Cut kicks off. Hell Witch Forbidden from Coffin Comics, which I'm sure is going to be awful, but I try to support the characters going in better directions. Night Terrors and Night's End, which sounds like that's going to be one of the wrap-ups. And then Little White Lie, Marvel Age 1000, Moon Knight Annual, and the first issue of Ms. Marvel, The New Mutant number 1, which... who's that actually written by? Let me see. Ms. Marvel, The New Mutant number 1 is written by... okay. Well, it was co-written by Iman Vellani and then Sabir Perzada, who is not a writer I'm familiar with. I want to say he was one of the guys who did the show. Doesn't say. But... here we are. Mixed feelings. Just hella mixed feelings. Betsy Cola's got a variant. Lucas Warnock's got a variant. Luciano Vecchio, John Tyler Christopher action figure variant, Artgerm variant, Arthur Adams. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see when we get there, I guess, how that one kind of goes. With the TV, movies, and anime segment. And joining us now is Adam. Hello, Adam.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
So the first new things for the spring anime season. Mashle isn't new, but it took like almost 2-month, I want to say, break because the voice actor was apparently overworked. His voice was being overworked, so he had to take a health break in that sense. And it's back, and it's absolutely hilarious, and I'm still loving it. Saint Cecilia and Pastor Lawrence, I thought was going to be some weird, like, semi-horny creepiness, and it's not. It's actually very funny. She's like this little gnome girl who just acts like a saint when people are around, and then as soon as anybody else leaves, she's like, I want to go to bed. It's like me. And then Pokemon Distant Blue Sky absolutely walloped us with the first episode. I was really... I mean, it's not that surprising. It was a very Pokemon first episode. Ash he runs across some random kid in the forest and befriends him, only to later find out the kid is a ghost of a child who died some time ago, and his dream was to touch a Pokemon, so Ash, like, helps him complete his dreams so that he can move on to the afterlife. It is quite emotional. I've been binging The Devil is a Part-Timer to catch up with that. And then A Knock at the Cabin and The Little Mermaid. Those are 2 movies that I watched last weekend. A Knock at the Cabin was, what's his name? Who did The Village?
Oh, goodness. M. Night Shyamalan.
Thank you. Him. M. Night Shyamalan. And it had, It had Drax.
Dave Bautista.
Thank you. I'm good at names. Dave Bautista was one of the characters. There's a couple other recognizable people in it as well. Really, really, it was very good, and then once you get to the end, and it's like, oh, right, this really is this, and it's like, I kind of would have rather it be crazy people, but that's fine. The Little Mermaid I genuinely really enjoyed. Congratulations to the Disney moms who got Javier Bardem, King Triton, I think is his name, right?
Yes.
Congratulations. I'm happy for you ladies. You guys are thirsty for a animated dad who just got IRL hot, so good for you. Good movie. I liked it. Music was fantastic. I gotta rewatch the original because I thought there was like some original numbers, but I could be wrong. I know the one, obviously, the Scuttlebutt song by Aquafina was obviously new, but it was still fun. You will kind of watch some of that over my shoulder.
Yeah.
For a musical, not bad.
Yeah, I don't really like musicals, but it was really good.
Okay. Alright, so then Castlevania, for our only news item, is that Castlevania is coming with a spinoff, Nocturne. I know you're really excited for that.
Yeah, it looks really good. I believe it's Richter. I think he was the one the 3rd or 4th game followed. So there's like some kind of like cool like other story that you could like follow up on, I guess.
And this is without, what's his name? The other, names again.
Warren Ellis, that
Warren
guy.
Ellis,
It shows that the show very much still has the same vibes and style. So
Warren Ellis wasn't the key to that.
Yeah, exactly. It shows that he wasn't needed.
Yeah, it's good not to have people like that doing these sorts of things. So that'll be, what is that, September 28th? So we got almost 2 months, almost totally 2 months. Okay, so that's pretty much it for news. We were lucky enough to have episode 8 of Strange New Worlds this past Thursday, even though we had the special crossover episode with Lower Decks released over the weekend for Comic-Con. This one was called Under the Cloak of War, and it was a very interesting, it was a different, obviously, I think you said it last week, that there's like, oh yeah, they're going to do a bunch of comedy for this one, and then next time it's going to be a lot more serious.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely followed by that plot. This one had to do a lot to do with PTSD for soldiers. You have Mbenga and Nurse Chapel, who were on the worst front line of the war between the Federation and the Klingons. And so then this Klingon guy is Klingons, right? Yeah, Romulans are the other ones. Yeah. I always get the Klingons and the Romulans mixed up. Not always, occasionally. And so then the war is over, and like this guy who was an absolute devastator. Oh my god, my cat. Is on their ship, and they just like are completely taken back to the worst parts of the war, and the stuff that they had to do, and the people who they lost, and things like that. And it's really odd because it actually ends in it's interesting because throughout the whole thing they're calling the general this one term. I don't remember what it was, but it was something like the slaughterer of masses or something like that. The butcher of such and such place they were at, because he apparently butchered his entire underlings, all of his generals, all of his, like, anything under him for his own army. He butchered all of them in that night. And apparently that title has been something that everybody knows he has, and he did that. Well, it comes out on this that was not him. He took the title because everybody assumed it was him. It was actually Mbenga. And so Mbenga reveals, I was the butcher. I was there that night. I slaughtered your generals. And they have this big, like, kind of almost physical altercation for a second. The guy grabs a knife that Mbenga killed all his generals with, and we're led to believe, we're not sure at this point what happened, that it may have been an accident, but the guy, the Klingon guy gets stabbed and is dead. I think he stabbed himself to try and frame Mbenga in some way, or because he was like just, I don't know, going crazy in the moment. What did you think about it?
Yeah, it was a really good episode, and like I think I said before, like this one, that Mbenga and Lon are slowly becoming my favorite characters, and this episode kind of cemented that more for Mbenga. The reason why it was so impactful to him and Nurse Chap was because they were actually on the planet that guy was a general of and gave the call to kill anybody not Klingon.
Yeah.
So he's the main reason why they were in that conflict and why it was so bad. Basically what I got from it is that Mbenga was like, okay, cool, you took credit for... Basically, because Mbenga had snapped one night and he was going to go there and kill him and take out the whole thing and try and end the war. So he ends up getting away, and what I took it as is that... Because basically Mbenga was like, you're going to tell... Because this guy's like now like, what, a peacekeeper on the council or something?
Yeah.
And Mbenga was going to like, basically, you have to tell the truth, that it wasn't you and all that kind of stuff. And he's basically saying that like, that will ruin my career as a peace thing. The Klingons won't take me seriously. So yeah, I think it was very much like... He was like, okay, cool, well, to preserve my work, I'm going to kill myself, but in turn probably make it look like Mbenga did it. But that probably isn't... I don't think it ended up working out that way. It would probably just... he couldn't
we saw what Una went through, where it was like there was no way she was going to get out of that. And lo and behold, they got her out of it using extremely smart and not at all skeevy tactics. They literally went by the letter of the law and proved their way that could keep her out there.
And this very much fit with this guy. He took the credit of work of somebody else to build up this foundation, and then when it's found out that he's a fraud, he's like, oh, what's the easiest way out again? This way.
Yeah, I don't have any doubt that it'll come to a reasonable conclusion, although I do really wonder what... Mbenga is not a character who we see in any other Star Wars content, so that's what makes me wonder if this is going to be kind of like a way for them to send him off and he like just can't be here anymore, like, and he's got to go somewhere else. I don't know. But whenever something like this happens, like I kind of thought that we were going to lose Una after season 1 because that's how season 1 ended. And she's not in any further Star Trek content, so I'm always waiting for something like that. But hopefully this won't be it, but I'm kind of keeping that in mind just in case he does end up not being in the show after this arc.
It won't hit as hard.
Well, and it's not just this arc. I think it's the final... What is this? That was episode 8, and there's going to be 10 episodes. So nice. We're wrapping it up with this arc, I think. So then, Secret Invasion, I was kind of like loosely watching it over my book while you were watching. Talk about the finale.
It's really funny. The whole message at the end of She-Hulk was like, don't do big CGI fights that don't really lead to anything for finales, and they kind of did that in this.
Yeah.
So it's really funny. It's just like it's like they're aware, but they're not really in a way. It's really fun. I've seen people like it wasn't fantastic, but it wasn't bad either. I just think people are used to or have the MCU humor so ingrained in them they want jokes every 30 seconds, and this didn't have that. And also another thing is that like I feel like this fits the adaptation of the comic because the comic ending had a lukewarm reaction, the same reaction the TV show does. So I think in that aspect it fits. But yeah, it's just kind of starting to show that like there's not really much of a plan with this kind of stuff now. It kind of seemed like we're seeing the tail end of them just going, yes, make this a show, make that a show, make this a show, and just flood the market with content.
I had a couple of things that I saw that were kind of interesting. Obviously, but first off, CGI battle, whatever, and all that, but I think Emilia Clarke did great with the, like, facial expressions and body language of somebody, particularly when she gets Carol's power, which is a thing they said they were never going to do, but she gets it here, and you can see, like, looks like she's going to burst, like, from the inside out, and then, like, her, like, gritting her teeth while she's, like, trying to hold in the power in and stuff like that was really cool to see, because we've only ever seen that on a person who is done this for 20 years and has absolutely no issues controlling her power and letting it flow through her. And then you put that on some rando like Gaia. Oh my god, Gaia. And it's gonna be quite an experience and really physically difficult.
I also really hope they keep bringing back Emilia Clarke because that is the how that
was my next thing. Yeah,
I enjoy how they did the MCU Super Skrull. I think it very much fits with the MCU world. Like you're not going to have the Fantastic Four.
I can guarantee you forgot about the scene in Captain Marvel where young Monica sits on the steps with young Gaia.
I want to see. Oh.
Playing with a toy.
Oh my god.
Yep.
I did. Wow, yeah. And
if they don't put her in the Marvels, they have massively screwed up.
And it's also like, man, what a big change, because in that point in time, Gaia had her mom and dad, and they both believed in this ideal to get a planet, and now both of her parents are gone, and it's just her with this broken dream that Fury himself even admitted was a lie.
Yep.
So, ooh, man, yeah, but it's just like, yeah, you're right, like how they handle it, and then also how they really showed how strong Carol is in the MCU. Like,
Mm-hmm.
her literally just, like, blowing a hole
Yep.
through him, and then it just goes off into, like, that's like some, like, when fucking Goku lets out the final Kamehameha kind of stuff, like, power level. And I was like, oh, yeah, they weren't, like, that shit went off into space and just probably hit the sun or something.
And obviously giving her Drax powers was stupid because it's just
strength.
She's like for a half a second has his arm and then it's really badly CGI'd and then that's it. It's like people are making jokes. The power of fatherhood.
I also do not think that Gravik is dead.
That'd be too easy.
Exactly.
But they've been doing that so much in their shows.
I know, but it's like, because it's like, I could definitely see him, he got his ass kicked and he, ran off with his tail in between his legs, but like, they just flashed to his body and then like, they didn't go back to it. It didn't show the hole, because they showed that they both have
the hole was there.
Okay, but they both have extremists and have shown can heal from mortal injury, so I'm kind of like, because yeah, just like you said, like, they don't need to keep killing off people like that, and then it'd also be
but it's a very MCU thing to do, but maybe they've learned, but maybe it's like you can go back and forth.
I know,
it's
so like, but yeah, I really hope, like, the two, like, new characters in this, I guess, era I really want to see more of are Hercules, of course,
yes,
and her, just because, like, those are, like, and Gaia, like, those are the two new, and especially with her, like, those souped up Super Skrull powers, they can do so much with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you get a lot of the standard, I don't know if it's because it's a woman or it's because it's pop culture or what, it's probably because it's a woman, but the cringe bros on Twitter doing the like, look how cringy this fight scene is, and yeah, it was stupid she got Drax's arm for a second, but it really was excellent physical body acting to have her struggling to maintain the powers bursting from within her. She did a very good job with that in that whole scene. I mean, people love to make, like when in Rings of Power came out and you had the bit of Galadriel flipping up onto the horse and they're trying to do the same thing. Oh, look how cringy this is. You never saw anything like this in Peter Jackson. Yes, you did actually. Legolas did that a number of times, but I guess you forgot.
Well, they call the scene of her, like, using the powers cringy, but they ignore when, Gravik is walking around with a fucking Thanos arm and a Groot arm trying to fight her.
He had a Thanos arm?
He had a Thanos
oh my god,
arm, yeah. Like, it's like
one.
a giant purple Thanos arm flying through the air, and I'm like, what is that even, like, gonna do? Like, you have
we can agree the whole thing was a little bit cringy, okay?
Yeah.
It wasn't one side, one gender or another.
And it's also my thought process, like, you have the Hulk's arm, but you're going to use Thanos? It's like, well, I feel like he did whip him, but it's like, I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a little bit up and down. I am not going to expect to ever see her in the Marvels movie, even though people have been like, well, because the whole reason that was brought up, well, the whole reason people brought that up was, I bet they forgot they even did this, and a big part of me is really in agreement of that, because history shows. They have all these opportunities to do things in the MCU. You can change things from the comics, whatever, but when you set up these great opportunities and then never play out on them, that's what's really disappointing to me for the MCU, recently at least. I didn't expect much from the Secret Invasion show, so I don't think it was very disappointing to me to see that it went this way. I think as far as what the show was supposed to accomplish, it probably did that just fine. I think anybody who's going into the Marvels aware that it's sort of following up on the Secret Invasion show in a sense, in a certain direction, they'll have watched it or have read up on what happened. So I don't think that that's a thing to be concerned about at all.
Yeah, I don't think
I think the content of the show will probably be pretty easy to summarize. Oh, that's what it was. Yeah. I remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
They did the classic pointless retcon after the show is finished, where the director came out and said, now he said he thinks, that's nothing canon. He said, well, I think that Rhodey's been a Skrull since Civil War, which makes zero sense because of the blood, because of the broken legs thing, because here and there, there's so many reasons for that not to make sense. Because of the snap, none of these questions have answers, but this guy's still going to try to come out and, we didn't need to know that Dumbledore had a sexuality. That was never something in the question of anybody's minds ever. We also didn't need to know what your opinion was about this, Mr. Director. Well,
and the thing that's funny is that he only directed that episode. So
really?
So it's like, okay, so you really
why are you getting any views about this?
And the one thing that I've seen from myself, not that I watch everything and remember everything, but I just do remember specifically after that, especially Infinity War and Endgame, Rhodey had on the leg braces to walk around and move. But then when you see him in Falcon and Winter Soldier, when he has that moment with Sam, he no longer has leg braces and throughout the entire time of Secret Invasion. So
I think I vaguely remember saying, like, oh yeah, what happened to his broken legs? We're like, oh, he probably just got a chip or something.
I remember you saying that, yeah, and then it's just kind of like, see, that's kind of why I'm like, oh, they expect us just, like, blow it over. I think it happened...
He got better.
Yeah, I think it happened sometime after Endgame, but before Falcon
and that's probably what the Skrull who was playing him said, oh, I got better, or I got a chip from Tony's stuff.
Yeah, because the chip from Tony thing would make sense, and definitely Loki, like, come on, Tony, as smart as he was, he figured out fucking time travel, but he couldn't figure out, a chip to get his buddy walking.
Can we sidebar for a second? Because you just said Loki, and I remember the Loki trailer came out.
Oh, yes. Great segue.
I didn't watch it because you told me what you told me, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll watch it when I feel like it.
Yeah.
Jonathan Major's stuff has kind of evolved since we talked about it originally. No, he was not guilty for that particular case. Yes, there is a lot of other dirt that came up at the same time that has not been addressed, period. So we're going to leave it at that for him personally, because I feel like enough complications have come up that who are we to make a judgment? But at the same time, they're clearly not getting rid of him.
No,
You said he's in the trailer a lot.
Yeah.
I, for one, did not really... I mean, Loki Season 1 ends the way that it does. And then we get Quantumania, and for whatever reason in my head, I have not really expected Loki Season 2 to be kind of following up from that point in Season 1. I don't know. I didn't really see them making this, like, an MCU-size thing. Obviously, you have Tom Hiddleston, and you have what's-his-name in it, and I'm sure you have a couple other big names who were in it from the last season, but, like, I just didn't... I was like, okay, Season 2 is going to be, like, probably toned down, and maybe taking a different path, because all this other stuff is going to happen between the end of Season 1, but I guess it really hasn't, because they can pick up right where they left, technically. But then you have the whole question, I just going around in circles with this, about, like, oh, but Kang in Quantumania was dead, but the Kang in the other one was it, and that was this guy. Like, which... I don't find it to be very fun to speculate about that. I find it to be more annoying at this point.
The whole thing that they get away with it is that they said TVA headquarters isn't affected by any outside changes. Unless it's like something...
But then if they still kill the motherfucker, he's dead still. But then there's all these other... You just showed us the Council of Kangs.
Because
which Kang is it that took over the TVA? Like, I don't really have much fun with it. It's not very fun to think about. I'd rather just have them fucking simplify it.
It's not really... well, what I think we're going to end up finding out is we never really found out, but like I think they're going to end up saying that Kang was the one who created the TVA because he wanted to have open timelines to go into and, whatever.
Well, that was the whole thing. They had never really clarified, the founders or whatever it was.
Yeah, because it's kind of like,
Oh, right, because he didn't create the TVA because he was the one without he must not be named, Voldemort or whatever.
Okay, well, there we go. But yeah, so that's why I kind of feel like it's no matter what, like, some version of... But then
Evil Him came back.
Well, no, that's what I mean, like, no matter what will happen, some version of him will be the one who founded it, is basically what ended up happening. Oh, and then one thing I really like, Ki-Hu Kwan's going to be in Season 2. From...
Appa?
No, from, Indiana Jones, the easiest one.
Oh, shit.
And then, of course, Everything Everywhere All
Hot
at
Dog!
Once.
Hot Dog Hands!
Yes, and Everything Everywhere. That was really cool, because the trailer starts...
Oh my god! And motherfucking American-born Chinese!
Yes!
I can't believe... Oh, God. I love that he's having a moment.
Yes, me too. And then yeah, his great moment in American-born Chinese, and then now this thing of, like, he doesn't have to play the cliche Asian guy anymore. Like, he's
I really, please, look up the scene of his speech. What's his name?
Ki-Hu Kwan, from American-born Chinese.
Look up the scene of his speech. He's playing an actor.
He's basically playing himself in the show.
Yeah. Holy shit. Really, really good. If you watch anything from that show, watch that speech, because I feel like that, for the simple parts of it, that there is the message. And then you get the more complex thing of the generational trauma and the heritage and the expectation. That's all a little bit more out, but that, like, the core of it is his speech there for me. That was like, holy cow.
Yeah. And it's
really fantastic.
And it's really awesome. Now, like, the trailer starts off, of course, like, Tom Hiddleston, Loki, and then Owen Wilson, Mobius, just walking in, and then they immediately get greeted by Ki-Hu Kwan, and I'm like, oh, okay, so that's letting you know that, like, he's probably going to be a reoccurring character in the show. Mm-hmm. He's basically the guy who runs, like, the help desk or whatever. Who's like, it's really, I'm excited to see him in it. Oh my god.
And I'm pretty sure we're never going to see a proper Lady Loki. We were talking about that for whatever reason the other day, how if it was some character was saying, oh yeah, we're never going to get a proper version of that in the MCU, and the example I used was, that's probably the extent of the Lady Loki they're going to give us, which sucks, because that's not at all... Shut up, Bath.
Yeah, she does show back up as well, and they're
she is in the trailer? Okay.
They're doubling down on it because there's...
Oh god, I forgot about that whole...
I
forgot about that side.
Not the relationship,
okay,
because it seems like she's disappeared somehow after the changes, and that they have to go find her again.
Please don't kiss again. That shit made me so uncomfortable.
I don't think it's going to be... No, but I think you're going to double down on just, like, she's the Loki, because they're just seeing, like, where they team up on this guy to, like, interrogate him, and then they both have the Loki form up in shadows as they're going to use magic and interrogate him.
Okay. So that leaves us with the first 3 episodes of Harley Quinn Season 4, which is just as ridiculous as it's always been. But we do have a completely different dynamic in this season, which I'm very happy so far in the first 3 episodes has been solid. They haven't strayed from that at all. It's been straight villain Harley, romantically dating, hero Harley, and villain Ivy, making it work as without getting into each other's business that much, it seems, which was awesome. Power couple, yes. Oh, I had the whole episode about that in the last season, that's right. I don't know, I just really enjoy that dynamic, and I'm glad that it's not, like, causing a relationship drama between them. They're not like, well, you can't do this because that's going up with my plan. It's more like, if they interfere with each other's stuff, it's more like, oh, hey, fancy seeing you here.
Yeah, which I totally was kind of worried about. I was like, oh,
and
God.
Not like, I need to use this information my girlfriend gave me and stab her in the back, which is nobody wants to see that, man. We've seen enough of that kind of stuff. The titles are also just as funny as they were last season's. Gotham's Hottest Hotties is episode 1. BITCH is episode 2. It stands for something. It stands for
an Alfred acronym.
It was an acronym from Alfred, because Alfred was having Harley Quinn trained to be part of the Bat family, and BITCH was like...
T was tea, like drinking tea, and
yeah,
H was like handle.
It was like the various, like, it was like handle the problem, T is drink the tea, it was like really random. B was like, be the best as you can be, or so it was like something that's not actually like an acronym, BITCH, but it's very loosely, like they put it somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Really, really funny. Alfred is still great. Oh, and Nightwing is
Guillermo
from What We Do in the Shadows, in case you didn't know that. Fantastic. You would not expect that, but it's gem casting. And then the 3rd episode was Icons Only. Which I don't really remember what was in that one. But they were all good. I really enjoyed this. I think it's Thursdays are new episodes. So we'll see a new episode before we do the next podcast. Anything you wanted to add for anything today?
No. Yeah, Harley Quinn's great. Oh, and then there's also, because I think it's that on Thursdays and then Superman on Fridays now?
Yes.
So, nice.
The Superman show, I don't really have a segment for it because it is technically for kids.
Oh, really?
I think.
Oh, wow.
I gotta look that up.
That's a perfect balance if
I'm not really... that was my understanding when I saw the trailer for it, but I could have been like, I don't know what I'm talking about, ever. Who knows? But we'll figure that out. But we aren't doing the weekly rundowns. We can. We know that Lois in this last episode did the Lois thing and forced him to admit that he was Superman. Because that would have been so boring to have a show where for the whole first season they're like, oh, she was... it was this thing I saw the joke about for K-dramas, right? Korean dramas. The timing is the whole thing. The clip I saw was the girl is walking towards the guy, is walking, and he's peeking around the corner, is watching her walk closer to the corner, and he's going to give her flowers. And then he sees some other guy run up behind her, and he's like, he goes back around the corner and is like banging the flowers on the ground, crying, sobbing, brokenhearted. Meanwhile, on the other side of the frame, where he can't see it, the girl is getting mugged by the guy who just ran up to her. It's like we don't need to have that happen for the whole Superman show. Like, we don't need her to just be half a second or looking the wrong direction and therefore didn't find out. Like, that gets old so fast. Not to say that gets old in Korean dramas. That's literally part of the draw. But yeah, I've been really enjoying that. The villain side of it is probably going to take a while to get into place because there's a lot of weird stuff going on. related to, like, Deathstroke and all that. But, like, whatever the robot things they're using, I feel like there's going to be a whole Kryptonian adjacent explanation to that. I don't know. We'll see. Anything else?
No, I agree with that. I think it'll probably end up tying back into Brainiac somehow.
Yeah, I think it would have to. Okay, so that's this week's episode. It's a little short because I don't have my glasses on. I don't know. Because it is. Deal with it. We'll be back next week to talk more Strange New Worlds, not Secret Invasion, because that's over, but more Harley Quinn and, you know, a bunch of other fun stuff. Comics. Tarot. I think our card is the Devil this coming week.
Yeah, I just happened to think of it as you're wrapping things up. There was something I saw that, I think it was Mark Bernardin said it perfectly, like, a great Superman movie or show or, you know, project is something you can take a 12-year-old to and watch.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like, you don't need him snapping necks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't need it. Yeah, especially, when I think about not the first, but the possibly, I mean, easily the live-action Superman movie that I remember from growing up the best is Superman Returns with Brandon Routh, or Ruth, however you say it. And I will never, ever take any kind of criticism for that movie, even though, you know, I actually don't think there was anything too bad with it, but, because I remember being whatever age I was when that came out, young, and watching it, and it was like, it went hard as, like, a 10-year-old or 12-year-old or whatever. Like, that was metal. Like, you got Lex Luthor, he's on a boat, and then there's these jagged rocks coming out of the sky, and then one falls on the baddies, and they don't go out of the way because they just keep running in a straight, like, that shit's awesome as a kid.
And then when he catches...
But then also enjoyable as an adult.
And then when he catches the plane from, like, landing on the baseball stadium, I remember thinking, like, that was actually kind of cool.
Yeah, when you're a kid, that's always great. You need that kind of thing in Superman, because that's what was the first panel cover of him. Oh, he's catching a car. Oh, wow. Anyway, the cat just knocked over the fan. We're gonna go fix it. Have a great week. Don't be a dick. Happy midsummer.
August? Okay.
It's not necessarily middle of summer. Midsummer is different. But anyway, good night.